Welcome back, everyone, to this week's Week 16 edition of Bruce Monnin's Computer Points podcast. That's right, we are wrapping up the season today. I am Bruce Monnin, your host, recording from our studio here in Minster, Ohio. Checking in, as usual, from the greater Cincinnati area, home of those 7-1 Cincinnati Bearcats on the basketball court. Notice how we've forgotten the football team already. We have our co-host, executive producer, and chief researcher, Rebekah Monnin.
Always happy to be here. I did happen to see that one loss the Bearcats put up. It was an exciting game. Lower scoring than I was anticipating, but still exciting.
I actually did not see it. I recorded the game, and then when I saw they lost, I said, I don't need to watch that. So,
It happened to be a Tuesday night, which meant I was at a game night that happened to be at Mad Tree Brewing, so I convinced my friends to sit at a table adjacent to a TV playing the UC game.
not bad. This last Sunday, I actually had the opportunity to watch the Pittsburgh Steelers Cleveland Browns game at a BW3s. I've never done that before.
Really? Never.
And no, an interesting experience. All kinds of people from all sorts of different teams there cheering them on. And most of the time, when a big play would happen, half the people would miss it because they were too busy eating their wings, drinking their beer, or talking to their friends that they weren't paying that close of attention to the games. It was quite fun.
Right, yeah.
Plus, I
feel
had a
like
nice
you,
batch of medium wings, extra crispy.
I'm glad. I feel like you frequented B-dubs plenty while I was growing up. Like, there should have been an opportunity to catch a game or two then.
Now, back in a while ago, I used to go to University of Cincinnati basketball games, and I would leave right after work, head to Cincinnati, get there 3-4 hours before game time, which was good because they didn't start charging for parking until 2 hours before game time.
Mm-hmm.
So I get there early and then head to a BW3s for a few hours before the game. But that was mostly basketball games, so it was a new experience, and I kind of like.
Well, good. I'm glad.
If you can't tell, I'm in a bit of a holly jolly mood here today. Speaking of which, it was decided earlier today that the unofficial Bruce Monnin's Computer Points podcast Christmas celebration will be next Wednesday, starting at 3:30 at Bud's Pizza. We have a lot of the normal gang all showing up because the 2 Wednesdays after that are Christmas and New Year's. So we have 3 weeks of office hours to roll into one holly jolly celebration here this coming Wednesday. Looking forward to that 12 Dogs of Christmas ale at the time. So
With the cinnamon sugar rim.
I hope.
I
Pod,
have to point out there that if you have that Christmas celebration next Wednesday, I will not be in attendance, which is
that is true.
perfectly fine. But that must mean I didn't win the bet and the free food.
You did not. And I will give you a chance much later in the podcast to comment on that and the order of how we go about such things. Whether we start with the winners or the losers in reporting the results of our
The
contest here.
winners are the losers. Wow. Okay.
Or as we like to say at the World Board Gaming Championships, there's the winner and all of the losers.
Yeah, that's fair. Ugh. All right, let's dig into it and see how many we got right.
All right, we are going to review all 7 of the state championship matchups, see how our personal picks panned out, and compare that to the picks we received from our listeners. But before we do that, first, Rebekah, I want to mention we have some news from the world of 8-man football.
Oh yeah?
Word has just come out that due to steadily increasing enrollment, the 2023 and 2024 champions of 8-man football, Toledo Christian, are returning to the 11-man game starting next year. They will play an independent schedule next year and rejoin play in the Toledo Area Athletic Conference, the famous TAAC, the
Heck.
TAAC, in 2026. They are still members of that, by the way, but since they don't have an 11-man football team, obviously they don't participate in that sport at the moment. The Northern 8 Conference by the way, announced that despite this loss, they will be growing. Just mentioned that details will be coming out soon.
Okay.
Don't know what that means, but sounds good for maybe a few more eight-man football teams coming up. I am not Huey Lewis, but you just heard the news.
Okay. All right.
If you've ever seen a Huey Lewis in a news concert after like their first song or two, that's how he introduces his the rest of his band. We can make
Okay.
that a new thing for whenever we have news. What do you think, Rebecca?
I think it's up to you. It's a catchy phrase, but not entirely on theme, but hey, we don't need to be.
Hard to argue with that. Okay, we're going to do these, I believe, Rebecca. We're just going to run them in order they were played again. I think that makes most sense for the state football
Let's
championships
do
here.
it. Yeah.
So that means we start with Division Two, which was played on Thursday night. We had now 16-0 Avon defeated 15-1 Cincinnati Anderson 20-13. I think I
Ah,
got that one
dang.
wrong, Rebecca.
I definitely did.
By the way, it was a nice snow-covered field way up there in Canton, Ohio. Looked like it would have been fun to slide around on. Not sure how good it was for playing football, but it looked like it could have been fun. One of those games where they just clear off the every 5 yards the yard line, and the rest of it remains snow covered. It looked like they only cleared off about half the seats in the stadium too. It looks like they didn't even bother with the other half of the stadium.
They knew they wouldn't need to.
They didn't. They didn't need to. Attendance for I think 6 of the 7 games was 4,000 some people, and then they tracked almost 7,000, I believe, for the final game.
Hmm.
Which usually the final game is the one up against the Big Ten championship game. They figured that'll be trouble attendance wise. That was their big one. We'll get to that later. So in this game, opening possession, Avon scores on a 71-yard draw play. So right out of the chute, Avon's up 7-0. In the second quarter, Avon failed to convert on a fourth down. Anderson got the ball. They drove and scored on a 12-yard pass, make the score 7-7. Avon then hit a 44-yard touchdown pass, making the score 14-7. Later, they recovered a fumble, then returned the favor, fumbling ball back to Anderson they fumbled it through the end zone, so Anderson got the ball on a touchback at the 20-yard
Hmm.
line. Hate that play where you fumble the ball and it rolls through the end zone and the other team gets it at 20 yard.
Yeah, it's not a good one that you want to
No.
break out on purpose.
Yeah, no, I doubt that's in the playbook. No. The third quarter, Anderson strikes back. They scored on the opening drive, but the extra point was blocked. So Avon still led 14-13. Avon then ran the ball 10 straight times, leading to a 10-yard scoring run. Their 2-point conversion failed, and Avon led 20-13. A lot of debate on the internet. You're ahead by 7. Why they went for the 2-point conversion instead of kicking the extra point. Some people said makes a lot of sense. If you get it, you're ahead by 9 points and 2 scores. Other people said just kick the ball and make it an 8-point game. Then you can't lose, right? There's Remember, there was snow on the field, and these are high school kickers, so maybe kicking the extra point is not that much of a given.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. A little bit too slippy.
And then we reached the fourth quarter. Anderson has the ball. They drove to the Avon 8-yard line. Then they lost yardage on a fourth down run. Avon took over. They drove the field until Anderson intercepts a pass at their own 3-yard line. So Avon just about had it put away again, and Anderson survived to get the ball back. Anderson drives to the Avon 22-yard line, but fails to convert on fourth down as time expires. So
Mm.
quite the back and forth in this game. Anderson had their chances, and you could say Avon had the chance to really win by a greater margin too. So
I mean, yeah, you could say that.
Avon's quarterback ran for 190 yards and a touchdown on 19 carries. So Avon said, just let the quarterback keep the ball. That'll
Yeah,
work for us.
apparently.
He also threw for 143 yards and a score. He completed 8 of 15 passes. Anderson's quarterback put up similar yardage but it took him a lot more attempts. He rushed for 148 yards and a touchdown, but he carried the ball 32 times, and he completed 19 of 33 passes for 150 yards on a touchdown. So sounds like both teams kind of put the game in their quarterback's hands, and it worked out a little better for Avon.
I know this is like normal, but it does still kind of shock me that we put so much of our culture and life and interest around 17-year-olds making decisions.
There was a football coach here at Minster a few years ago. And I was talking to his father one time, and the father told me that he told his son that he thought he made a bad career choice. He should not have a career where his job was in the hands of the decision making of 17-year-old boys.
Yeah.
So
Props to them. They seemed like they had a good game, both teams, really.
it sounded very entertaining.
It's just a strange concept to me that outside of football, I don't know that I trust these kids with this much. I'm sure they're good kids, but they're still high schoolers.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, going from a very entertaining game, we go to Friday morning's least entertaining game of the week.
Oh no.
We had the Division 7 finals. Marion Local, now 16-0, defeated Jeromesville Hillsdale, now 14-2, 74-0.
Yeah.
You heard about this one, huh, Rebekah?
No, it's not a surprise.
It spurred during in-game commentary on the internet a whole lot of debate about what the heck is Marion Local doing in Division 7, and can't we bump them up a couple of divisions somehow?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's not
for
pretty.
our recap here, Marion Local's initial drive, an 11-yard pass, a 25-yard run, a 12-yard run, a 17-yard run, and a 4-yard touchdown run. So that was pretty much not stopped on their first drive. Marion Local intercepted a pass, which led to their second touchdown. A 43-yard flyer punt return, followed by a 37-yard pass, made it 20-0. 43-yard interception return, followed by a 1-yard run, made it 26-0. Marion Local returned a punt 66 yards for a touchdown to make it 33-0. And this is still in the first quarter, by the way. Marion Local had the ball for 2 minutes and 17 seconds in the first quarter and led 33-0. But the score ended up being 60-0 at the half.
And then we got the running clock.
And then we got the running clock. Marion Local averaged 14.2 yards per play with just 19 plays in the half. Marion wrapped it up by scoring on the first play of the third quarter to go up 67-0. I forget how their backups got the other touchdown to make it 74-0.
You forgot.
I forgot.
Okay.
The one stat that kind of jumped out at me, Marion Local had 5 interceptions in the game. Hillsdale had 5 completed passes. So they completed as many to the Marion Local defense as they did to their own team.
Oh, those poor kids.
I know. You're happy they made it to the state championship game, but
that's
just watching
mean.
some of the highlights, it just looked like they didn't know what to do. These Marion kids would just run right over them. It was ugly. That may be why that game was scheduled at 10:30 in the morning. Not sure. Okay, back to the more interesting games. Division 3 Friday afternoon. We had Columbus Bishop Watterson ends their season 16-0 as they defeated 14-2 Toledo Central Catholic 19-14.
I think I picked Toledo. I'm not doing great here.
Well, we'll find out later on exactly how great you did.
This was the one time I'm exposing myself for the listeners. This is the one week this year that I did not write down what we picked. I let Dad handle it alone, which means I am in suspense as well. Got to rely on my own memory.
I have a nice spreadsheet here with everyone's picks. So, of course,
love
right?
A spreadsheet. Yep. All right. Watterson won over Toledo Catholic.
Yep. We'll start in the first quarter. Toledo Central Catholic scored first after several punts. They used 8 running plays to go up 7-0. In the second quarter, Toledo Central Catholic takes advantage of a fumbled punt to drive to the Watterson 6-yard line at the end of the half. They miss a 23-yard field goal, so the game remains 7-0 at the half. And really, to be honest, Toledo Central Catholic dominated the halftime stats. They were really winning this game. The score only said 7-0. They really needed to put up more points for how they played in that first half. And as that goes, sometimes it comes back to haunt you. In the third quarter, Toledo Central Catholic gets to about the Watterson 10-yard line before they get stopped on a fourth down play. Watterson then tied the game 7-7 on a 28-yard touchdown run. Toledo Central Catholic then returned the kickoff 87 yards to go back ahead 14-7. So things are looking good for Toledo Central Catholic again. Then we hit the fourth quarter. Watterson facing a fourth down and 1 to go when they threw a 52-yard touchdown pass. Their extra point was blocked, left them trailing 14-13. So we are left with Toledo Central Catholic ahead by 1 with under 4 minutes remaining. Watterson faced another fourth down. This time they had 13 yards to go on fourth down, and they converted it with an 18-yard pass. So huge play in the game. I would say the play of the game, actually. Eventually, Watterson scored on a 9-yard run with 1:20 remaining. They missed the 2-point conversion, so it made the score 19-14. Toledo Central Catholic received the kickoff. They could not get the ball past midfield on their final drive before time ran out. So game ends with Watterson state champions, Division III. A little bit of revenge for Watterson. This was the game, if you remember. They lost 27-7 to Toledo Central Catholic last year in the title game.
That
We
sounds
said last
familiar.
week,
Maybe I did pick Watterson. Huh.
we mentioned last week, Toledo Central Catholic knew how to win ugly, but it could be very easily said that that was Watterson who did that in this game. It was not the prettiest win, but when you know what, when you've got the trophy, that's as pretty as it needs to.
I kind of like a scrap over a pretty win sometimes. Makes it more fun.
And finally, we get to what would be the big, most important game in our prediction contest, the Division I finals Friday night. How Olentangy Liberty ends the season 14-2 as they defeated 14-2 Cincinnati Archbishop Moeller 28-7, a convincing 3-touchdown victory. I believe I mentioned to someone earlier today, it just seems unusual. Division I tends to go to a Cincinnati or a Cleveland school, usually a private school. Columbus, the bigger schools tend to be public, and they don't tend to get the state title very much, but a dominant win here for Olentangy Liberty. In the first quarter, Liberty stopped Moeller on a fourth down play, 6 plays later, and 49 yards later, they led 7-0. Nice short halfway through the field drive there. In the second quarter, after a short punt was returned 24 yards to the Moeller 16-yard line, it had to be a short punt. Anyway, Liberty scored on a 20-yard pass to go up 14-0. Moeller tries a fake punt,
Oh.
which failed, and later on, they lose a fumble. And after this mistake, Liberty drives to the Moeller 20. Moeller forces a fumble from Olentangy Liberty and returns it 80 yards to reduce their deficit to 14-7 before half. So a big play for Moeller, but if you look at the final score, you realize the only time they scored was on an 80-yard fumble recovery.
Yeah.
By the way, the Moeller quarterback was named Mr. Football as the best high school football player in the state, and Olentangy Liberty shut him down, as well as the rest of the Moeller offense. In the third quarter, Moeller runs another fake punt. This time they succeed. But later in the drive, they fumble the ball away with Liberty recovers on their own 17-yard line. Liberty completed a 61-yard pass to go up 21-7. And then later in the third quarter, put another drive in the end zone for that final 28-7 score. Oh, I had the score wrong. Excuse me, Rebekah.
Ooh.
Egg on my face, I tell you. In the fourth quarter, Moeller scored on a 3-yard pass to make the score 28-14 with 7.5 minutes remaining. Liberty then ran out the clock, all 7.5 minutes on their next drive, used the entire
Wow.
clock. Yeah, real ball control there. I guess I forgot the old fourth quarter touchdown that didn't affect the game there. Sorry, folks. 28-14 for Liberty over Moeller.
The quarterback managed to squeeze one more in there. Yeah.
By the way, just for how this game went, there were 5 fumbles in the game, with 3 of them lost. 6 times in the game, teams went for it on fourth down, only succeeded once. 5 times it failed. So,
Ugh, another scrappy game, but this one's a little bit uglier than the last one.
yeah, I would agree with that.
And I definitely picked Moeller. I have a feeling I'm not getting that free food since I can't be there, and also I lost. Dang.
Well, let's move on to Saturday. We get to the Division 6 finals Saturday morning, and it was Coldwater from the MAC rounding out their season at 15-1, defeating 15-1 Kirtland 31-7. Boy, we both took it on the chin in that one, Rebecca.
Yeah. Good for Coldwater, though. I'm happy for them. But dang, really thought Kirtland would hold a tighter game.
Well, to be honest, I think you never know for sure. You're not there, right? On the sidelines. You're not there at the team,
True.
but it just kind of felt like Kirtland kind of panicked early and got out of what they do best. But
Ah,
on to the recap. In the first quarter, Kirtland's opening drive stalled on a fourth down at the Coldwater 28-yard line. So they were driving well, just couldn't punch it in. After 2 punts, one by Coldwater, one by Kirtland, Coldwater hit a 55-yard pass, then completed another 14-yard pass on fourth down with 2 to go for that first score of the game to go up 7-0. In the second quarter, Coldwater benefits from a Kirtland roughing the passer penalty, or excuse me, Kirtland roughing the punter penalty. Coldwater was
hmm,
punting. Kirtland ran into the punter, gave the Cavaliers the ball. Later on, there
interesting.
was a pass interference call against Kirtland, and then Coldwater fumbled the ball but recovered it. So they avoided disaster several times in this drive. Eventually, they scored on a 5-yard pass to go up 14-0. So it seemed like things were going Coldwater's way in this game. In the final minute of the half, Coldwater had a third down and 15 to go. They completed a 39-yard pass on that play, then hit a 17-yard pass for another score to make it 21-0 at intermission. So with a nice lead, we hit the second half. Coldwater used half the quarter on their opening drive and then punted. They were running the ball fairly effectively against Kirtland, which was something I did not expect. Kirtland tried to reverse, but they fumbled the ball, and Coldwater recovers it in the end zone for a touchdown to make the score 28-0. Later, after stopping Kirtland on a fourth down, Coldwater drives, kicks a 24-yard field goal to start the running clock at 31-0. Eventually, in the fourth quarter, Kirtland drove to score a touchdown and halt the running clock, but the final score was still 31-7. And what was somewhat unusual for Kirtland, they had 7 penalties for 65 yards just in the first half. And really, in state championship games, what I've noticed through the years is the officials don't tend to call that many penalties. They have to be obvious.
Hmm.
It's kind of hard to hide running into the punter, I guess.
Yeah, that's the definition of obvious right there. Yeah, that is kind of strange for them.
Yeah. The final stats actually looked fairly close between the two teams. Big difference was Kirtland was 0 for 3 on fourth down plays. Coldwater was 1 for 1. So
That'll do
Coldwater
it.
kept their drive going. Kirtland's drive got stopped. By the way, if
Gotta
you're
convert those.
if you're doing the math at home, that makes the two MAC teams winning by a score of 105-7 in their championships.
I don't know if that's a fair stat. When one of them is marrying local. Oof.
Well, it was another good weekend for MAC football at the state football championships this year.
Oof. Yeah, that it was. Goodness gracious. All right, maybe there's a better game coming up next.
Well, I guarantee you there is. Whether or not you consider the next one to be it or not, I don't know, but you will like the last. So in the afternoon, we had Division 5. Ironton is the state champion, now 15-1. They
Ooh,
defeated 15-1 Liberty Center 28-17.
ooh,
By the way,
okay.
just internet rumblings, but Ironton and Marion Local both open week 1 next year. Thoughts of a interesting week 1 matchup, perhaps?
What do you mean, a non-football person here? What do you mean say both open week one? What do you mean?
Neither team has an opponent scheduled for the first week of the season next.
Ah, okay. That could be a fun game. They're not, well, they're not close location-wise, but neither are
Yeah,
Ironton and Liberty Center.
yeah. Would they make the trips, or would they try to rent a stadium out somewhere like in Troy or somewhere, or
I would think
somewhere in between?
a
Saturday
halfway would be
afternoon
good.
game so all the fans can get there. I don't know.
Be a heck of a game.
Yeah. Back to this game. Ironton Liberty Center. First quarter, Ironton takes the opening kickoff, uses almost 8 minutes to score on a 35-yard pass to go up 7-0. So if you're thinking ball control here, they used almost 8 minutes of clock and they were still 35 yards away from the end zone. They had to been going 3, 4 yards of play right down the field. In the second quarter, Ironton completes a 46-yard touchdown pass. Oh, maybe this is the play I was thinking of. The ball was only in the air for about 1 yard on their second drive
Hmm.
to go up 14-0. Ironton had a great player here that caught this pass. Sean Terry's his name. He had an interception, 3 touchdowns, 75 yards rushing on 2 carries, and 143 receiving yards on 10 receptions.
That's pretty good. That is
I,
pretty good.
I an interesting fact about this guy, or people who follow your college basketball a little bit, is Sean Terry is the cousin of a man named O.J. Mayo. Well, if you recognize that name, Rebecca,
I don't, but it's
but
two food items.
that don't really go well together.
They do not go well together.
Now, you talk about genetics here. O.J. Mayo was actually the third overall pick in the NBA draft one year.
Oh
He
my
was known
goodness.
around Cincinnati area. He played at North College Hill one year, took him to a state championship. He was one of these guys. Bob Huggins had a great recruiting class going, and then Cincinnati fired him. And he spent a year out of coaching, and he kept recruiting OJ and a couple of other guys. So then when Kansas State hired him, all these guys were supposed to come to Kansas State play there. Well, most of them did, except for Mr. Mayo. He went to USC instead, played for 1 year, and then went to the NBA draft. USC later on had to forfeit all those games because of the found out the money exchanges going on between the school and the player. Uh, all totally legal these days.
Of course.
But
Yeah,
no,
there's a
no,
lot to
back
be
then,
said for height. Just cousins, they're probably both tall.
I would guess so. I don't know. Don't
It
remember.
might have been a little bit delayed from the initial thought observation. Okay, anyway, fun
Anyway,
fact.
anyway, after, also in the second quarter, Liberty Center responded with 9 running plays to trim the deficit to 14-6. Failed on the extra point, however. They then forced a punt with a minute left in the half, drove 42 yards, and kicked a 39-yard field goal to trail just 14-9 at the half.
Not too shabby.
In the third quarter, only one real thing of interest happened. Ironton reached the Liberty Center 17-yard line where the Tigers stopped them on downs. Well, I got to be careful. I think Ironton might be the Tigers too. Anyway,
I think they might be.
or Liberty Center drug them to a halt. I don't know. Anyway, what more happened here in the fourth quarter? Liberty Center took the ball. They drove to the Ironton 29-yard line. Then they lost 20 yards on a couple of plays and had to punt. It's depressing if you get to the 29-yard line and then have to punt.
Really is. You
That
might as
might
well
have
just
been,
go for the field goal.
well, I don't think they were going to kick it from the 49-yard line, but still.
Yeah.
Ironton got the ball. Their drive was kept alive by a Liberty Center pass interference penalty. Then they completed a 46-yard throw to set up a touchdown run and go ahead 21-9. Liberty Center was faced with a fourth down. They completed a 33-yard pass to keep the drive alive. Then they hit a 10-yard touchdown pass and the 2-point conversion to be down just 21-17 with a minute 52 remaining. Ironton recovered the ensuing onside kick, but Liberty Center forced and recovered a fumble on the next play. Boy, the Ironton fans had to be upset. You figure the game's in hand, you recover and then there's a fumble.
Yeah.
3 plays later, though, Liberty Center fumbled the ball back to Ironton. Ironton then followed with a 67-yard touchdown run to seal the 28-17 victory.
Yeah, I think they probably got over the first fumble pretty quick.
Yeah. For a while there were a lot of not happy people. By the way, it had been 35 years since Ironton last won a championship. I was not at the game, but it was the same year that Minster won their championship in 1989 at Ohio Stadium. So Ironton's game would have been just a couple before Minster's, I believe, but I did not take it in. It has been 7 years since any team from southeastern Ohio won a state championship. So
how do you define southeastern Ohio?
I was
here?
afraid you'd say. I was afraid you'd
Is that
say that.
anyone from the southeastern region, or are you just kind of saying not Columbus or Cincinnati and down there?
I believe we're going by the state divides in all sports, not just football related. Divides the state up into 5 regions. There's the Four Corners and Columbus.
Okay.
So it would be the southeastern part of the state, not including Columbus, basically.
Okay. I wonder what the outer border of Columbus is. And
I would guess the Loop and maybe a little farther.
Yeah. So 7 years since any team in southeastern Ohio won
what state football championship?
Any state football. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. Good for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we can make that Ironton Marion local game happen next year, I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
Our final game of state championship weekend, Saturday night, the Division IV finals. Indian Valley playing Sandusky Perkins. Indian Valley ends the season undefeated as state champion, defeating 14-2 Sandusky Perkins 37-36.
Wow. Okay. Good game.
It's not just the score. This was the best game of the week.
How did they know?
By the way, I had this at the end. I'm going to move it up to the front just before we start reading our recap here. In the final statistics, Perkins had 370 yards passing. Indian Valley had 355 yards rushing. So we had a contrast of styles here.
A full passing versus rushing game. Okay. Very cool.
Just to tell you how this game was going to go, the opening kickoff, Perkins does an onside kick and recovers it.
On the opening kickoff?
On the opening kickoff.
Why? I mean, it worked.
It worked. I would guess they saw something on film.
Wow. Okay.
11 plays later, Perkins hits a 40-yard pass to go up 7-0. I found that interesting too. After recovering an onside kick, 11 plays later, they were still 40 yards away from the end zone. But whatever. In the second quarter, Indian Valley ran the ball 13 of 14 plays and topped it off with a 2-yard fourth down touchdown run, making it 7-6 after they missed the extra point. Perkins returned the kickoff to midfield and then fumbled it to Indian Valley. 4 running plays later, we had a 12-yard touchdown run by Indian Valley. The 2-point conversion made it 14-7. Perkins comes back with a 54-yard touchdown pass to tie the game at 14-all. Indian Valley, on their next possession, scored on a 2-yard run and then made the 2-point conversion to go up 22-14. And if we hadn't had enough scoring yet in the second quarter, Perkins hits a 70-yard touchdown pass. And they also make the 2-point conversion to tie the game 22-22 at intermission. Let's see. My note says at the halftime stats, Perkins almost all passing, Indian Valley almost all rushing. Yeah, we saw that from the end of game stats too.
Sure did.
In the third quarter, get this, Perkins starts off recovering an Indian Valley onside kick.
Oh boy.
If you can't stop the other team, they're going to make a 70-yard touchdown pass, do the onside kick, and then they only have to make a 50-yard on
I
touchdown
mean,
pass,
I
right?
guess that's one logic.
Later,
Okay.
Perkins completes a 26-yard touchdown pass to go up 29-22. Indian Valley shows off their passing game with a 50-yard halfback pass to the quarterback, which sets up a 2-yard touchdown run to tie the game 29-29. Perkins goes back to the air, hits a 53-yard pass to go up 36-29 at the end of the third quarter. As we hit the fourth quarter, Indian Valley's down a score, but they do not abandon their run game. Instead, they run the ball 10 straight times for another score. They figure, heck, Perkins can't stop our running game. We'll run the ball again on a 2-point conversion, and it's good to put them up 37-36. Perkins then drives to the Indian Valley 9-yard line, but a fourth down pass is dropped. Indian Valley then ran out the last 3.5 minutes because Perkins couldn't stop them from running the ball, as we saw all game. So Indian Valley gets the 37-36 victory. So what do we have there? A couple of onside kicks, and they were to start each half, not out of desperation.
It's so
We,
strange.
we have a halfback pass to the quarterback. We have long touchdown passes. We have 2-point conversions all over the place and a 1-point victory for Indian Valley. That's a game.
That's a game.
All right, that gets us, Rebekah, to our prediction results for our contest from last. You get a pick. Do you want to start with the top finishers or the bottom finishers?
I think we need to build the suspense for the best competitor. So bottom to start, please.
All right, we can do that. We had 9 people submit their picks. And of
Ooh.
course, there's also Rebekah and myself. And we have the computers and the yappy.net polls. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14 total. That look about right?
Yes.
14 total picks. Yeah.
14. That's pretty good. Pretty good.
We'll start at the bottom. Remember last week how you did the best by just going by the regular season Harvard computer points, and we said that seemed kind of maybe more random than a predictive thing.
Yeah.
Well, the Harvard points went 2 and 5 this week and tied for last place along with Bruce Monnin. Really?
Oh boy. Oh, we're really solidifying ourselves as experts to be relied upon.
Yeah, that's kind of embarrassing, isn't it? We had one other 2 and 5 person, one of our that sent it in. They, however, beat me out by 1 point on our tie-breaking thing. So while I finished tied for 13th, they finished 12th. So they are less embarrassed than I am. Next, we have the winner of last week's contest, the owner of 18 full-size candy bars that I really wanted, Mr. LS92, who said something about his wife finally respects his addiction to high school football.
Oh, maybe don't show her this one.
He went 3 and 4. Yeah, not so good this week. 1 point, and also going 3 and 4, but beating him on the tiebreaker was our own Rebekah.
Woo! I'll take it.
Now, if we'd have just gone to the internet, gone to yappy.net, the Yappy football forum, and looked at the polls there, you'd have gone 4 and 3. And if you'd have listened to the Fantastic 50 computer, you'd have gone 4 and 3. Or if you'd have listened to Aaron West, entered all of our contests, you'd have gone 4 and 3. These same 4 games, and all these people, by the way. If you'd have listened to Jamie, my waitress at Bud's on Wednesday afternoons, you'd have gone 4 and 3.
Okay.
If you'd have listened to Gary Tiemann, who sits at the bar at Bud's quite often on Wednesdays when I'm there, you would have also gone 4 and 3.
Oh, that's the popular pick, huh?
And if you'd have followed Ms. Karen Geyer, some random person who was picking up pizzas to go at Bud's that day.
Some random person. I'm sure you're lovely, Karen. Don't listen to him.
She went 4-2 because she failed to pick one of the games.
I mean, you accosted her while she was picking a pizza.
That may have been a problem, yes. That leaves three people who tied at 5-2. Two of them had the exact same picks, lost out on the tiebreaker, however. That would be, let me see here. That would be Boomer Edwards, who, by the way, is the bartender when I get to Bud's on Wednesdays, and Steve Steinecker, who is an assistant St. Mary's girls soccer coach and also the assistant coroner in case you ever are in need of such services. They both went 5-2. They both lost out on the tiebreaker. Their one underdog pick was getting Toledo Central Catholic right, but they did not match the two big upset picks of our winner. And I guess I could have made a rule that relatives are ineligible, but since I did not, the winner tonight is my father, Ken Monnin.
Ah, good job, Grandpa. But I, what a coinky
He,
dink.
he was the only person to pick Olentangy Liberty to win that Division One game over Cincinnati Moeller. Big win for him that got him the victory.
Everyone else
Also,
was in buds and staring down the Moeller neon signs.
that could be his other big win was Indian Valley over Sandusky Perkins. That was done only by himself and Rebekah.
Woo! It's reparations for the massacre.
Oh,
Uh, I regret that.
so the question is, how does my father do so much better than I do at this?
He goes to a lot more games than you do.
There is that.
And he
Back
actually
when I
watches the games as opposed to typing on the statistics computer the whole time.
that doesn't hurt either, I'm sure. Back when I was a college co-op student working at the Minster Machine Company, I started running a March Madness pool that my boss would not have approved of if he had found out, which might tell you that I wasn't the smartest guy there. It wasn't the smartest move on my part in my career. But anyway, Dad used to always finish near the top, and usually I did not. And and he said it was because he listened when I talked about the teams. When I wondered why I usually finish so poor, he just said I must not have paid attention to myself when I was talking. So there may be something to that, Rebecca.
There might be something to that. Grandpa's a very good listener. I will give him that.
That he is. So if he shows up this Wednesday, which he claimed he might, he gets a free 16-inch pizza and two beverages of his choice. So I doubt he could eat a 16-inch pizza all his own, people. Here's your chance.
Are you encouraging people to ambush an 80-year-old man and steal his pizza?
That's what I'm doing, yes.
Okay. He's feisty. Be warned.
Don't try to take his pizza. That's for okay. That about wraps up our 2024 football season, Rebecca. I think I can say with certainty we will not be back before the new year.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, we're going on hiatus.
Sometime we will get back during the off season. Who knows when? Whenever news warrants. And of course, there'll be our great preseason extravaganza, which, if you paid attention, sounds like would have been worthwhile to pay attention to this year. Huh?
It might have been.
If I'd have listened, I would know. But that's a so, Rebecca. We have a whole many months here for people to give us suggestions on what we need to do better next year.
We
Could
sure
they do
do.
that?
You are welcome to do that through many forums, including and not limited to emailing us at bdmonin@nktelco.net or submitting on X/Twitter to @BruceMonin. You can also place those thoughts in the comment section of our YouTube page underneath this episode's video, as well as I don't know, private messaging Dad on whatever social media you find him on, or chat room that he presents. He's usually using his own name. For
Usually,
accountability's sake.
you'll find me this winter hanging out on the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball fan boards.
There you go.
big games next 2 weekends against Xavier and Dayton. Lots of big basketball action here in the state of Ohio.
Ah, the crosstown shootout.
I don't suppose you ever got drug into guarding the Oscar Robertson statue, did you, Rebecca?
Sure didn't. I was not that invested.
No, me neither.
That, and I don't know if it was a
Just,
concern while I was at school. I never heard anyone talking about doing that.
I don't know if it's a concern now, but they seem to have a good time there. There's coach brings out pizza to them and they have games and stuff. It seems like I don't think I think someone could probably come up and do something to the statue and the people guarding it would not even notice.
That's probably true.
That's a challenge for anyone out there, by the way. Not
Okay.
a, not officially because I don't want to be sued. But
No.
anyway,
Anyway, if you haven't already, please subscribe to this podcast wherever fine podcasts are found. Fingers crossed over the hiatus, we figure out some of the podcasting details we've been whinging about for years now, and maybe we'll have it on Spotify in the coming months, but it could be a Christmas miracle.
ooh, Christmas miracle.
As always, you just search for Bruce Monnin's Computer Points and it'll pop right up.
That it will. That it will. And until we approach the next season, I guess all that's left to say is so long, everybody.